Hello, I'm Michael Cantrell, and you are listening to the Prison Officer Podcast, a place to have a conversation about the forgotten cops that work in this country's jails, prisons, and correctional centers. A place for me to try to make sense of a career spent working inside the fence with some of the greatest people that nobody sees or recognizes for the important job they do to keep this world safe. If you love this podcast, hit the follow button, or better yet, share with your family, friends, or coworkers. In more than 28 years of corrections, I have used or supervised Pepperball hundreds of times. Now, as a master instructor for Pepperball, I teach others about the versatility and effectiveness of the Pepperball system. From cell extractions to disturbances on the rec yard, Pepperball is the first option in my correctional toolbox. With ranges up to 150 feet and hoppers that can hold 160 rounds, Pepperball is perfect for controlling large crowds or group disturbances on your yard. Pepperball allows for non-lethal direct impact to control inmates who refuse to comply with lawful orders, and area saturation allows you to achieve buffer zones between groups, or use it for area denial to keep inmates away from security equipment and other accessible areas. To learn more about Pepperball, go to www.pepperball.com or click the link below in this show's information guide. Pepperball is the safer option first. Well, hello, and welcome back to the Prison Officer Podcast. Today, I've got a good friend of mine. We've been trying to plan this for a little bit, but I'm glad we finally got to do this. Joe and I have been working together for a long time. I'm going to introduce him here with just kind of tell you a little bit about this amazing person. Joe Buice is a lifelong martial artist with over 40 years of training across multiple disciplines and at master level ranks, including Renshi in Goshin Jitsu, so he may have to correct me on that here in a minute. He's a retired sheriff's office lieutenant with an extensive background in corrections, a former commander of the elite law enforcement units there. He now serves as Pepperball's director of implementation. He teaches advanced tactics to leading agencies nationwide. And I'm going to embarrass him here because when I first met Joe and got to work with him, I guess it's been 4 or 5 years now, I got to watch him teach defensive tactics, and I was blown away. He's probably the best defensive tactics instructor I've ever watched, and I've been wanting to talk to him about how he teaches and what he thinks about defensive tactics, in law enforcement and corrections. So welcome to the podcast, Joe. I'm so happy to have you here.
Wow, thank you very much. I don't know if I can recover from that. That was very good, Mike. I appreciate it.
I didn't even have to make any of it up.
No, at least not the majority, right? That's good.
Right.
That's awesome. No, that's really good. I appreciate it. And we have been trying to get together with this for a while, and both of us busy schedules and everything else. But yeah, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I start these conversations the same. I think everybody looks forward to it. Let's learn a little bit about you. Tell me where you grew up and how that was.
Sure. I grew up in Georgia, so that's my home state. I said that I spent the majority of my life around Lake Lanier. And
hold on.
Yep.
That went down the wrong hole. Okay. So, tell me about where you grew up, Joe.
Yeah, I grew up in Georgia. So Georgia's the home state. I always claim, so I say, where are you from? North Georgia mountains, the Forsyth County, Beaufort area, really around Lake Lanier. So I grew up there, and I moved to Gwinnett after right about graduation, right about in 89, 90, somewhere in there.
Right. And what did you do in school? I mean, were you in sports? Were you...
I was in trouble some, but no, I tried. I tried to stay out of trouble, but no, I really that's where I started martial arts. I actually started at a pretty young age. Didn't really. I really wanted to do a lot more with sports at the time. Growing up, I was more interested in getting a part-time job, trying to make a living, trying to do something for myself, and not really a career. But I guess we all come from different walks of life, and I grew up, I was thinking, how am I going to make the next step? So martial arts seemed to be something. I found a school, started training with a good friend of mine, and it led into more of a lifestyle or a passion. And I granted, I don't do it as much as I used to now, but There was a time where every day I was out just obsessing on something, some new technique, or trying to learn something new.
Well, we're about the same age, so tell me if I'm wrong, but I was heavily influenced, took some classes back then, Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme. I mean, we had the martial art movies back during that time, didn't we?
Oh, we had them. They were all out. You know, you had Jackie Chan, you had on top of that Jeff Speakman and stuff. I still track some of those. I'll still look them up every once in a while. Oh yeah, but some really good people that were phenomenal in film and real classic martial artists.
Chuck Norris, can't forget Chuck Norris.
You can't forget Chuck Norris. And I don't know if you're familiar with Jeff Amata, but Jeff Amata has done over 600 films, from Book of Eli to Lethal Weapon movies back in the day, but just excellent martial artist and stunt coordinator and choreographer.
Cool. Yeah, I think we were all influenced a little. So you get out of high school, you're looking for a job. Where does that take you?
Yeah, so I'm out of high school and trying to figure out life. And, as most young kids, I worked everything from a detail shop and a car wash to I traveled off with a buddy of mine to the U.S. Virgin Islands and St. Thomas after Hurricane Hugo, and spent time over there rebuilding, come back, and I said lived a different life. I was teaching martial arts and training and thought that was what I was going to do for a living. And I started working as in a warehouse, running forklift and working shipping and receiving goods. And I thought, I'm not sure if this is what I'm cut out to do. And a buddy of mine says, hey, with your knowledge and your background, and they've trained with me before, they said, have you ever thought about going into military or law enforcement? And I had my family. So my family has a background in law enforcement. And I said, sure. I actually said, let me take a look at it. And went in, and next thing you know, I was at a local sheriff's office.
Okay. And what did you start off at there?
I started off in the jail. So everybody starts off, and I actually started off, my first month was in central control and waiting on a class to come up. So it's like you had to wait for a class to come up. And the first, year, almost 2 years, I was in direct supervision, working in inside corrections, a housing unit. And that was kind of my first position in law enforcement. That's what I was doing.
What'd you think the first time the grill slammed and you're in there?
That's kind of disturbing, right? I'd gotten in trouble as a young kid for running too fast in a car one night, and I ended up getting picked up. My dad had to pick me up, but it's something. You go in, you're like, I'm not sure if this is for me or not. But I don't know if it was just direct supervision, but there was something about it. I started realizing it's made up. It's its own little community made up of different personalities, different people. You have some people that these are all. They're not all bad guys. You always hear that, were you in there with the bad guys? I'm like, well, I'm sure there's some in there, but they're not all bad. And it is our community. So I started realizing it's good to start learning who you're dealing with. I thought that's where I really built a good foundation in communicating with people, talking to people, interviewing people. So it was a time that I really treasured.
That's interesting. You talk about something, and there's something that I didn't experience. I worked in prisons, so I ran into people that I knew sometimes, but working in, a jail in your own community, you're having to handle people that you know from the street that you maybe grew up with. Yeah. Did you run into some of that?
Yeah, it's funny you say, not as often. So I grew up more towards Forsyth County, and that way I was in Gwinnett, working. And as I'm working, I didn't really see many people that I knew, but on occasion I did have them in the housing unit. And remember, a lot of these were pre-trial. These were not convicted at the time. You did have convicted sentenced inmates that were in there. Right. But I ran into them, and most of them I told them, I'm here to treat everybody fair, be respectful, and they were respectful for me. Didn't I don't think I had many that would try to push that and ask for favors. And if they did, I'd tell them, hey, can't do that. Sorry about that, but we can't do it right now. And most of them understood. They had good respect for what I was doing, and they knew if I did a good job, then I was keeping them safe as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I actually had to have one of mine transferred that I knew from school, and he's like, "Oh man, you're here. We can," and I'm like, "We? No, there's no we. You know this. We're on separate time here."
Yeah, yeah. We are not together. We're working is what we're doing.
That's right. So, so you're in corrections, and apparently you told me you liked it. What were your plans at that time? What was your goals in life? What were you thinking about at that time?
I think it goes back to we just grew up maybe in a different time. I was thinking more of the Starsky and Hutch and the old days and Miami Vice. And I'm like, I first came in looking, I said, hey, where is the boat patrol? I want to go to the boat patrol unit. And we're close to Lake Lanier. And they're like, yeah, come on in, work with us. And I always say it was a recruiting thing. You get there and they're like, oh, there is no boat patrol. That's the next county over. That's Hall. But I really was wanting to try to do as much as I could in law enforcement and just get a full experience of everything. And really, I had thoughts in my head wanting to help people in the community and do more. So I had a desire to go to the road. So I ended up actually leaving and working the domestic violence unit. And once I got transferred over there was this calling. I just really enjoyed. I know a lot of people, they either do or they don't, but I really enjoyed the jail. I liked working in the environment. I worked like the corrections team that we had and working with those guys. And I found myself over 24 years. No matter where I went or what I did my overtime back there a lot. I would go back. I always trained with the guys. They trained with us. And I did it, and at the time, maybe it wasn't popular. I don't know if it is now, but it wasn't popular then. Everybody's like, why do you keep going to the jail? And I'm like, there's just something about it. It's just, it has its own draw to me, and it has a special place in my heart. Maybe that's where I started, and that's why I push to go to different events every year and try to host good quality classes for our corrections officers, because sometimes they get forgotten or left out. And that's not the case. They're an amazing group of people, and once you start working with them and around them, it's good times.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I haven't heard of that before. So even while you were on patrol, they would let you go do corrections overtime?
Yep, you could go. If the jail was shorthanded, they would let us go work in the back. Now, if you came from another agency and you did not have certain certifications or you're not used to the building, but no, you could go back there and work. And hours
That's
mostly
cool.
At the time I was on the road, I did more shakedown of housing units or any type of situations that came up with cell extractions or different things of that nature. I'd be called back in or call in or go in or assist. But hey, in a sheriff's office, you work at the leisure of the sheriff. So if he desires, you can help out wherever is needed, I guess.
Okay. It's so you start training, and you're absolutely right. Sometimes corrections is forgotten, and I've always found correctional officers to be very, I guess the word's hungry for good training. Because sometimes we get the leftovers. I don't know how many times I was the only corrections guy in a law enforcement class.
Yeah.
And so when you get to train them, they seem very hungry. Did you find that? Well, and you were doing what, defensive tactics? Is that where you started in the training with them?
Yeah, I actually was working in the jail in a medical unit. And I put in for the CERT team. It's whatever name people want to call it, but it's a tactical team working in the jail. And I was told, they said, hey, you're not big enough. You're just not big enough. We're looking for these big guys. And at some point, I don't know how it came out in training or however, but they said, hey, this guy's got some type of skills, so we want you to come to the team. And then I came in, and then I started exploring what's real, what works, what's simplistic, and what maybe is good on Hollywood or in movies, but it's not good in real life. And I changed actually the term. I just started saying that we're doing more control tactics than, is it offensive or defensive? I guess I don't know. Maybe it's just words, but I said we're more controlling people, or or learning to control them with say maybe the least amount of force to do an objective, to change a behavior, to get control. So that really that kicked off my passion for getting to go back, work with these guys. And I don't know. I just thought that they're a unique group of people and sometimes underappreciated. And you're right. There's many times I don't get either short-staffed or many different reasons they're not getting a lot of the training classes that maybe you see other officers get at times.
Yeah. I got to see both sides of the defensive tactics. State of Missouri, I worked there for 8+ years. They were very hands-on, control tactics, arm bars, and we did a lot of that. And then when I went to the Bureau of Prisons, it was all defensive stuff. If somebody comes after you, how to do reverse spider crawls and kick with your feet, and nothing to get a hold of somebody. And so I always had an advantage, because I had been through classes where they taught you how to control someone. It's something that I see, and you tell me if you see the same thing, but I see the videos on TV and stuff, and they post corrections and police trying to get a hold of people, and we don't teach them enough because they're fighting on the ground, wrestling with somebody when they shouldn't be. They should have already had a hold of an arm, done a little pain compliance, thrown whatever, and do you see that a lot when you watch these videos and do after actions?
Yeah, there's a whole lot. I mean, I still do that with the job now, and you kind of touched on it. I'm with Pepperball, and I teach law enforcement across the country, and I still review a lot of videos, corrections on the road, just different places. But some of the ones recently, I've seen people who either maybe they're not confident in their skills, or maybe they're hesitating for one reason or another. And at times, I look back on it because I was a guy who would go in there trying to teach, but we have to take ownership of that at some point and go, hey, we need to teach our officers better, or give them better quality, or bring them in. Now, granted, you have to have motivation yourself and want to do those things.
Sure.
But you see hesitation. You do see people who, it seems things are missing, basic fundamentals, even with like an arm bar. The arm bar is not grabbing someone's arm and putting it on the ground if they are not going to do it. There may be a loosening, a timmy or strike to loosen the person up, make them pliable to actually be able to move them into a control situation. But those little pieces are missing sometimes in training.
Right.
And then they go, well, I don't know why it don't work. Well, there's a little more to it than that.
It's not just getting a hold of the wrist.
It's not it. Especially if somebody grab your wrist. I'm not going to be able to move you. That's right. You have to loosen and make them pliable by performing some other type of technique, or loosening blow or strike within policy.
I do see more people these days, and you talked about you have to have the motivation to go learn and get good at this. It says there that, and I'm going to let you explain what is Renshi in Goshin Jiu-Jitsu or Jitsu, but more people are taking Jiu-Jitsu lately.
Yeah, Goshin-Ryu are a lot of the Jiu-Jitsu. Of course, there's a lot of either Japanese or Brazilian. But Renshi is polished instructor. That's what that reads. You reach a rank of what people consider a polished instructor.
Okay.
And I haven't been one, and I still don't. I am not big about saying, hey, look at me, I'm a master of anything. I feel like I'm always learning, and I'm always challenging myself, even to the point of, it's great to get a black belt. These are goals. And I was always told black belt is the beginning. That is the beginning of your lifelong journey. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what color my belt is when you're inside a jail or prison or on the street. So you really do have to put a lot of work into it. And it's a perishable skill. And I think to motivate people, however it may be, through monetary gain, hey, we'll pay you extra money or overtime or train or just have a good leader that will lead from the front, get in there and do it with you. But to get the guys in there, the training is really important because, again, what I learned 20, 30 years ago, if I haven't done it since then, is not going to be as fluid. Because everybody goes, how are you so fluid and fast? Well, it's repetition and practice, and it's working those basic fundamentals over and over.
Yeah. We may have already answered this, so just tell me if I'm not getting it. But What do you think the biggest gap right now that you see? Because we travel all over the country. We get to go see correctional officers and police officers all over the country. What do you think the biggest gap right now in defensive tactics is? What are the agencies not spending time and money to put out there?
Yeah, some of the big gaps, I would say it's been changing over the last, it seems like it's a constant change at points. The last couple of years, I don't see as many, sometimes the quality of training's there. Some agencies are jam up. I get there and I go, this is a really solid program, and they're putting a lot of time into it. The officers are training, and then you get others where you will go and I would say the time to put in, they may go once a year to a training or some type of training class, and then that's all they're putting in. And then they go, why did this not work when I wanted it to work? But again, it goes back to putting in. So I guess maybe the hole in that, or the crack, is the emphasis on it's not just something to do once or twice a year. You can go and maybe do your GCIC, or you do certain certifications once or twice a year, but it's perishable. It's something, it's got to be fluid. It's got to be natural, and you do have to put the time in. You got to put the work in.
It's not, I was talking to Judy Simon Garrett. I had her on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and this book is Prisons and Beyond. And this was written by the first director of the Bureau of Prisons. And in here, and this is 1938, he talks about the need for officers to have jujitsu. Yes. And they were training it at the academy back then. So these aren't new thoughts.
No, they're not. You're right. You're right. A lot of this it's been around. If you go back and look, there's just been so much that's been, not just through law enforcement and corrections or street or whatever, but in general, in a whole. We've had so much knowledge, so much out there, so many things have came and went. And also see knowledge base. You have older instructors and guys who are retiring out, and then you do have new things coming in. And I've signed up for many. I've taken many programs. I don't ever reach a level in my career I didn't, where I was like, okay, I am the master. I am Zen, and I am good. I always wanted to keep progressing. So a lot of the Gracie classes that they put on for law enforcement, I went to those. There's been, oh my goodness, anytime I could go to a DT instructor school, whether it's federally or state, or at FLETC, or, Forsyth, that's a place in Georgia, I would sign up to go. I just really started making it an obsession, because you can always find little pieces, little nuggets that are great. And then you may find something and go, that's really good, but I'm not going to be doing that. Maybe that's not appropriate at my agency. But I would think that there's a lot out there, Mike, and that's really interesting, because you can find old judo footage as well of things they did, especially when you get the PR-24s and the old batons from the day. That some of those were not just for striking; they were actually used for control techniques.
Yeah. I love your idea that you mentioned a while ago. If you hire on with some departments and you have a college degree, you get an extra few $1,000s a year for having a college degree. I think that's a great idea, and some administrators ought to take a look at that. If you have a black belt, if you have this knowledge, why wouldn't we give you an extra 500,000, whatever, dollars? That's a safer employee. That's an employee that can stop and can minimize use of force. It's not just about fighting for your life. It's about an employee who can minimize use of force. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think a great idea. There are, I'm not going to say different categories, and I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule. And one of the biggest things you probably have heard me say, I said, there's more than one way of doing things, and I think there's more than one thought process. But let's explore this a little bit. You have a guy who I meet that's a 3rd-degree black belt in a martial art, and he is an excellent teacher, and he's got the basic fundamentals down. And you can tell what he was made for in life. He's good at passing that information to another. Yeah. But he's not a very good martial artist or fighter, as far as you say, is to do things. Or you'll have a good fighter, but maybe they're not a good passed on the knowledge. And then you do meet someone occasionally that's very well-rounded of both. But yeah, it's I think it could be a benefit to departments to find individuals with backgrounds and go, hey, this guy is he is a martial artist, or he's had X amount of training, and is he willing or capable to convert it to our policy and our rules of engagement? And two, can they teach that? Can you pass along that knowledge to others? I've been to years ago, I guess I could tell myself, but I went to a martial arts instructor, and the instructor was very rigid. Everything, and it's classical. Maybe I say classical martial arts or traditional, but we'll demonstrate the technique of whatever it is, and then you are to figure out a lot of application of how it works. And then I find myself with what we're doing, and again, we'll go back to corrections when I teach it, like the mock prison riots or the cell extraction course, breaking it down slowly, piece by piece, and explaining, why are we doing this movement? Why are we doing this technique? And then let's transition into it. Let's see it play out. So a benefit, I think, for anyone that for an agency to have them come in with any type of training that would do that, maybe to, if not pay them more or an increase of pay to bring them into the agency, maybe even an encouragement to go, we would like to see you progress on a path to training division, so that you can start training our employees and our people. I went to many agencies and trained staff for judges on defensive tactics, control tactics, and other agencies, other departments, and where I come in and work with their team. And I tell them, this is just another way of doing things. It's all been done before in one way or another, but this is just a different way.
Yeah. Let's talk about where we met was Pepperball. We're both master instructors in Pepperball. And people would think Pepperball and defensive tactics, those are on opposite spectrums, but I've watched you teach. I think you know how I teach. And both ways, it is about the safety of the officer. That's why we're so passionate about it. And Pepperball is, that's what we believe. It absolutely sets the officer up to be able to do things in a safe way and to minimize use of force. What do you, go ahead and just tell me, why you joined Pepperball, what you think about it, and let's hear about that for a minute.
Yeah, the draw with Pepperball is we used it in the jail, but it's being used in jails and prisons all over the country with success, and on the road, in the street. I think a lot of it's very similar to what kids use on a paintball field. 10 to 12 foot-pounds of energy, very low, and it can be used for area saturation or alter the environment of a cell or car or vehicle or home or whatever you're in. So yeah, if we can keep our officers safe and keep them healthy, that's been healthy here as well as across the body. That's something good. And I've noticed, I'm not sure who said it, but I remember from years ago, they always say there's no winners in a fight. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that means. Sure there is. There's a winner and there's a loser. And it's, and then I started realizing, if you're working, intake on a Saturday night and there's only 2 of you in pre-admissions, and you're bringing in 65 people come in the back door, and out of the 65, we'll say 5 or 10 of them they want to fight, and then you're fighting them. Well, that may be the only fight they're in, maybe that month, maybe their whole life, but you're going to be doing that every night through your career. So those little bumps, when you drop your knee on that floor out, in those prisons and jails, or you fall and hit your elbow or hit your head or hit your hand, it takes a toll on you. So the more that we could use like a tool, like for me, Pepperball, and that's what I got into for us. And it's a lot, you can save the career of some officers and keep them extended. I've been seeing a lot, and for the past couple of years, you go to agencies and they're guys with my knees messed up. Our backs are messed up, our necks are messed up, our hands are messed up. So hopefully if it's doing the same for our officers, is it also doing the same for the inmates or the suspect or whoever it is? Yeah, the more we can keep hands off people, the better. The better the longer we're going to sustain, the longer we're going to last. Yeah. And I know I hear a lot of this. There is always a time and a place to put hands on people, to use Pepperball or other things, or maybe simultaneous. But we do have to be smarter as officers, because I'm not sure the injury rate. I'd love to see some data on that, but I'm sure the injury rate overall when people retire out it's a pretty high level. If you, we live a pretty dynamic lifestyle, and then the environment that we're in can take a toll on us after a while.
I'm hopeful, because I know, over my career, when I started at Missouri State Pen, we didn't use anything, no pepper spray or nothing. We popped the door, 5 guys ran in. Yeah. That was the way we did every use of force. Yeah. And I did 1,000 use of forces over my career. But I just had a shoulder replacement, complete shoulder replacement. And that's what it was from a use of force. So I do think we've come a long ways. I don't think the officers get beat up quite as bad as we did back then.
No,
So I'm hoping, as we get better at some of this other stuff, that there's even going to be a generation ahead who gets beat up very little, and they only have to.
Yeah, I would hope so, because I think I've heard what's all the terms, the polyester pile and the dog pile or whatever. There's a lot, but when you're in it, and when I first started, that's when I realized I may not know everything, but there is something to teaching some of the stuff that I teach, because I was in a cell. We were doing cell extraction, and same thing. We had a lot of officers go in. I'm on the ground, and next thing I know, I think it was an ERD back in the day. It was about the time that I first heard of taser and ERD, but the guy's like, I've got his leg. And I'm like, that's my leg. And then somebody's punching someone else, and all the officers come out beat up and bruised up. Everybody is injured. Yeah. And you're like, this makes no sense. There's got to be a better way.
Including the inmate.
Oh, including him.
Which the sheriff office is going to pay, liability or medical or whatever for. Yeah. Yeah,
sure.
You're right. Nobody wins.
Nobody wins. It's horrible. It's horrible at the end of the day. So I have faith too, Mike. I think the generations we should be getting better. There are things that progression has came a long way. And I think that there are things that we can be doing to keep it going. You keep getting better and better. The blast and some of those other devices we're using in Pepperball, excellent tools.
Yeah, anything that we can do to not put hands on. And Pepperball gives us multiple layers of that before we have to. And I have used, Pepperball. I've used area saturation, done direct impact, still didn't work, and you got to go through the door. But by the time you go through the door, that inmate is feeling the effects of PAVA. Yeah. Right? They felt the effects of getting hit with the direct impact. So they're not as willing to fight as they were if you'd have just popped that door when they were super mad.
Yeah.
So it does, one of the main things, and I've heard you talk about this before and through martial arts, was discipline. It taught you discipline. And you talk about discipline. What does that mean to you? What is discipline? When it comes to use of force, when it comes to being a good officer?
That's something it's elusive, and I'm always striving for it, never mastering. But discipline, it is true to a sense. I mean, I think martial arts, if you're looking at that angle, what it's kind of taught me is to not rush in, to be more patient, to try to think sometimes before we act, or make our actions deliberate when we do them. There's so many times people, and I've done it when I'm young. You get excited, you run in, and you run in either to a bad situation or a time when you could have took your time. There was no need to rush. So some of the things that I throw out there is, and I hope I'm not too far off with it, but when I say that off your question, but is to think about the discipline it takes to hold what you've got, wait for your backup, wait for someone else, assess the situation and see, do we need to do this immediately now, or what are our priorities? Is our priorities really to go in here and get the the trash out of the window blocking the outside, or is the problem maybe a medical or a psychological issue that's going on? All that is a discipline, and it takes work because sometimes you focus in on those little details. And so discipline in your life, again, I haven't mastered it by any means. I'm still working every day. But yeah, I think that martial arts helped a lot with that. That was it's kept me really grounded and focused throughout the years.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. I think especially when we're young, we feel this need to, well, I said do it, that means now. Yeah. And that's not always the safest way. So, yeah, I think you're dead on with that. So, while you were out there on patrol, I know you ran some teams. You were doing that for quite a bit. Tell me some of the challenges you ran into and what the teams you were running. Tell me about what that was.
Yeah, so I guess I could start with the corrections team. I ended up, when I retired out, I had a lot of the high-liability teams under my belt or under my direction. And of course, the corrections team's 24 hours, 7 days a week kind of operation. You know, that never stops, that consistently goes. Search and rescue was one that for the North Georgia mountains, I enjoyed training and navigation from outside to helping. I always felt there was something really good about trying to find missing hikers or people. I don't know. I thought that was a big need for that. I can see how that's a true mission of search and you're finding. Sure. So, and plus you're outside. I do like the outdoors. But the other one would be domestic violence unit, serving temporary protection orders, child custodies, different things. Again, you're working with a lot of victims and trying to help families a lot, and the warrant service behind it. And from there, I had dignitary protection. So just for the agency I used to work with, we conducted many dignitary protection details over the years for some high-profile individuals coming into our county, which became a passion of mine, and I continue doing to this day. I still do some protection details and teach that as well. Fugitive unit, plainclothes, serving warrants. I say I played in it. I could have stayed there forever. I think I love doing that. There is a passion between actual hunting people.
Yeah.
So other than that, I had those. I'm probably forgetting one, but the Beat the Heat program, participating in that, is a drag racing program to help kids try to get them off the streets and onto the track. I felt that was something I should try to give back because I was a little wild when I was young, and my driving was always I like to go fast. So I said, hey, once I became an officer, I said, at times you look at how maybe you can't change the past, but you look at how can we help and how can we help other kids that may be dealing with the same thing or going through the same thing as you. And that was one of them. So Beat the Heat program. I think that's about it. There may have been one or two, but I really enjoyed different aspects of that for law enforcement. And I would say the domestic violence unit was probably one of my favorite units as well to work in. I felt there was a lot of reward out of that, and to help families. So yeah.
What would be your advice to new or experienced team leaders? How do you run a good team? What does it take?
How do you run a good team? I would think really some good solid advice is figuring out your players, figuring out your people. Right. And putting those pieces in the right place. So many times I've seen people who you're like, wow, this guy he's doing X, whatever that may be. Could be very intellectual or doing one thing, and you go, this guy would be perfect for, writing an ops plan and planning things out, and he's detail oriented. And others you may go, this guy, he's suited to be on entry. It's not. So a lot of times I'm seeing, and I've done it before as a leader, I need this position filled, but I find a guy who's perfect at this, but I'm trying to force him into this other space.
Yeah.
So maybe just really be patient and learn your people, lead from the front. That's a big thing of mine. Don't ask people to do stuff you're not willing to do. And it's good to have your people see you do it. If you go, hey guys, there's many times I can tell you I was absolutely exhausted, give out. I guess the other one I forgot to mention was mobile field force that I was in charge of for a while, and I was saying, "Hey guys, I'm beat, and you don't have to go. You can all leave, but I'm going to go and continue and go do this." And then everybody's usually like, "Hey LT, I'm with you. We're going to keep going too." And that's a good feeling when you're leading people that everybody's tired as you are, or if not more so, and they still follow you.
Yeah.
And
I've seen you do that. I've seen you teaching classes all day, and you're just smoked. It's one class after, like at the mock or something, and you're just smoked, but you just keep going. You're right. You don't slow down. You're still in there putting hands on so that they can see how to do it. So, I can see that you lead that way. The other thing that you mentioned was putting them in the right spot, and that's not just always for the team. Putting someone in a place where they're successful. Yeah, that's important too. When a person's successful, they feel good about themselves. They're going to work harder. They're going to be a better team member. So, I think you hit that on the head there.
Yeah, no, that's all right. It's a lot to pour, and it's hard. You don't always feel like it, but you're right, Mike. Anytime me and you were trained together, I watch you, and I see guys who I meet across the country, and I'll say, "Hey, this is Mike Cantrell. Look what he's doing." And then that raises the bar, and I go, "You know what? I want to pour out everything I've got and everything I do." And I think a lot of times it shows when they do that. So it's not just clicking a box or checking a box. It's really putting time in. And while we're here, we talk about leadership as something I strive to do and didn't do enough. And I try to now at this point is when people need to talk, if there's something going on, take time to stop and be in that moment and listen to what they have to say. Because a lot of times they may be telling you, "I'm struggling," or "I need to do this," or "My passion and goals are over here." And you can help not only get them in the right place, but, or if not, guide them to where, "Hey, you know what? I think you're more cut out to do this. Have you ever tried that?" "Well, no, I never have." "Well, how about try that?" "You're right. I love that. That's what I want to do." "Really?" And then you're kind of helping people, but you can if you're always on the phone. "Give me a second." It's the phone, and you're running too fast.
Absolutely. So I've asked you questions about being a leader because I've seen you lead, and I know that you've led those teams. The other thing you're really good at, and I said this at the beginning, is I love watching you teach. You are a good trainer. People get it when you're in the classroom. And so what would be some, I don't know, tips, tricks? What would you tell a trainer? What do you try to do when you're teaching a class, and what would you tell others?
I think maybe some good tips is or could be to really try to connect to your students. There's one thing about giving the information, pushing the information out, and you do want to do that, but really to build a connection with each student. And like you said, I've read a few books, and I started studying books right before I ended law enforcement. I got into interview and interrogations, and I like reading body language and micro expressions, but there's a lot said about making personal connections in class. When you're teaching, to try to get on a one-on-one level and you're like, "Well, I'm sorry, but I have 34 students." I get it. We're in there 8 hours. At least try to get their names. People love it when you learn their names, when you interact with them, when you really want to be not stale and not reading word for word off PowerPoint, but entertaining. You want to captivate them with what you're saying if you can. And I understand some things you can't. It's hard to do. But when you have an opportunity, let the passion that you have for what you're teaching, let people see it. Let them feel it. Let them see it. And it is it's not only captivating, it can be addictive. They'll be like, "Yeah, that's what I want to do too. What are you doing?" "I don't know, but let's go do it." And you're like, "Yes." So I would say that try to really interact and don't be afraid to interact. Don't be afraid to tell stories, and as long as it's relating to the subject matter to help them relate to whatever you're teaching.
Yeah. I think it is your passion that comes through. I think you're I think that hits the nail on the head with that. People see that because you are passionate and you do care. So what's going on with you now? What are you doing? What's keeping Joe busy now? I know you retired.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. A little tired. Yeah, traveling. So full-time director of implementation with Pepperball. I'm like, yeah, what is that? That's a fancy title, I guess. But I said, what am I doing? So we started out. We are having distributors in Pepperball. They will fund or set X amount of launchers, let's say 25 to 40 launchers aside, and we run a program where we are pushing into patrol, daily patrol for agencies. So we'll say, we've got these, and would you like to do 120 days? We'll come in there, do a user course. We're going to teach you how to use these launchers. Every 30 days, I'm going to be following back up. I'm going to be calling you. I'm going to be talking to you. We're going to help you with your policy, create policy, show you not Joe's way, not Pepperball way, but how are agencies across this country, some of our top agencies, utilizing this tool, being successful, and having the highest probability of success where their officers are safe, their suspects are safe. Let's find out the best way to do it and share that information. So we're doing that with the agencies. And then as they're building, using this in the field, we are getting data back saying, okay, you're having success. And what about this? Why didn't this work? Nothing works 100% of the time. No technique or no tool. I feel that way. And I think if people think about it, everything's great, but we don't need to rely on it. But we teach certain tactics like, I'll say, don't make a plan to fail, but have a plan of succession like an onion. We just keep rolling it back. I'll go from this to this. I'll be, hey, maybe I'm using Pepperball. Maybe I'll fall back to Taser, then K9, but it keeps falling back. It keeps rolling back with a plan. So we're teaching them how to be successful. The end of the time period, about 120 days, we reevaluate with their command staff and see, do they want to continue the program, or did it not work out for their agency? We have currently nine. We have 9 going right now. One of them we're wrapping up, and they have had huge success. This is a new program that we've just started. And with that, I'm still working with the top 25 in the country. As far as the agencies with teaching their instructor armorer courses, along with special weapons and tactics, some specialty stuff, corrections. Moundsville, West Virginia, going to be there again this year for a cell extraction course. And dignitary protection. I'm still conducting some, teaching a little bit, and on occasion to my special friends in North Carolina and a few other states, but I will go out and try to help them with some martial arts seminars when they do those. I'll be a special guest and come in and teach. But
nice.
Other than that, my wife and daughter keep me very busy with family stuff, which is at the highest priority. That's number one. And so that's a little touch of what I'm doing, but I'm traveling all over the country.
Yeah. We've run into each other a couple of times. So maybe you want to talk, maybe you don't. I know you're working on a book. Is that getting closer?
Oh, you had to mention that, right? See that now the worlds collide. Now those worlds don't collide, Mike. I'm here for one thing or another.
I'll cut that part.
I would. Yeah, I'm working on a book. It is dedicated to my daughter Juliet, and it's a flower book. It's a kid's book. And I was like, wait a minute. So I have people that know me from different forms. They're like, I can't believe this guy would write a children's book, and the others that know me from yeah, there we go. See, right? They'll say, he's an artist. He does photography and books. I can't see you doing martial arts or anything. But it's the same. But we all have, we're complicated humans, I think, when you look at it, as far as we have different joys and different things. But yeah, I've got a book I'm still working out. Hopefully it'll be out by the end of the year, maybe. I'm hoping. Okay. With help from some friends, maybe we'll
absolutely.
Yeah, but we'll have it out, and so I'm doing that. I've got a few adventures in for. I've got some stuff going on a YouTube channel and different things like that. I've just started up.
Oh, nice.
And so yeah, I'm trying to stay not very busy, but it keeps me really busy.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand completely. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, whether it's, I'll put the link to Pepperball, of course, and Pepperball is the sponsor of the Prison Officer Podcast. I'll put a link to Pepperball on there if somebody wants to get a hold of you there. Are you on LinkedIn or anything where you'd like people to reach out if they want to?
Yeah, of course. I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, you'll find me on there. And again, I think I put my email address in there as well. If anybody, needs anything in particular, I'll do my best. If I don't have an answer, don't know, I will reach out to someone. I'll find out who will. I didn't realize Pepperball was a, helping out here and throwing in on the podcast. So that's awesome too. So good. We'll shout out for Pepperball.
Absolutely. Well, I'll get that stuff put in the show notes. Thank you so much for stopping by and being part of the podcast. I appreciate it. I'm glad we got it done.
Yes.
I look forward to
pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Mike. I really, really appreciate it, and can't wait to watch more of your shows.
Thank you. I look forward to next time we get to work together, too.
Yes.
See you, brother.
See you.
So stay on here. It's going to do it. If you enjoy these podcasts, the best way to support the Prisoner Officer Podcast is to share these episodes with your friends or family on social media. Let me invite you to visit www.theprisonofficer.com. If you haven't already, check out the Prison Officer Podcast on Facebook and click that little follow button. Or leave us a message, or better yet, leave us a review. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcast, Google, or Spotify, please click the subscribe button. Till next time, I'm Mike Cantrell. Watch your back, and please take care of each other out there behind those walls.